it's not, doing a deal is never scary, really. You know, that was the scariest moment, sitting in that kitchen when we bought our first property for $5,000 down, assuming a mortgage. That's the scariest moment for a real estate investor. Now that we've done so many, it's just like, okay, doing the deal is not the hard part. Making sure it's not a bad deal, that's where you've got to be really careful.
All right, welcome back to the REI Money Matrix podcast. Scott Ulmer here. Today I am joined by Julie Hoffman. Very, very impressive story. I'm looking forward to her sharing it. I have some similarities. I think I lost everything through the downturn in 2008. It was a very, very tough time. And what I've always loved, and I think people in America and Canada, maybe the whole world, it's like human nature likes to see people fall down, but they love seeing people get back up. It kind of doesn't make sense, but it's those that get back up and respond to that adversity. And what I love about your story is you've got some really great lessons through the tough times, and I want to hear all about that. So first and foremost, welcome and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Scott, for having me. I really, I'm very honored to be here.
Thank you. Well, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. And so, well, we were talking a little before we started to record about kind of your backstory and, of course, what I've read. But rather than me tell it, can you give us just maybe a kind of where did you come from, and tell us a little about kind of your real estate journey and some of the ups and downs? It sounds like you've had a few of them.
Yes, definitely. Well, my real estate journey kind of starts really actually at the very, very beginning. I was raised in Denver, Colorado by two amazing parents, and my dad was a real estate investor and broker. And you would think that it would be like promoted for me to become an entrepreneur, and it wasn't. Education was promoted, and go to school, get a degree, get a good job, get a good education, which is great. That's, because out of love, absolutely out of love. And so I did that. I went on that journey, and I was in graduate school for physical therapy. And I met my husband in Mexico, who was a Canadian. And I could easily go to Canada as a physical therapist and work. And he asked me to marry him. And anyway, we got married. So I moved from basically right out of university to Alberta, Canada. And I started practicing as a physical therapist. We call it physios up here in Canada. So
gotcha.
I'm American, and
learn something new every day.
It's just like, So I always thought that I would work until I was 65 as a physio, because I had gone to school for so long. And my husband and I were pregnant within like 18 months of getting married. And again, I'm pregnant. I'm thinking, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go back to work after the baby. And my husband calls me when I'm 6 months pregnant. And he said, we got to invest in real estate. He'd gone to a seminar, and he was convinced. He owned a hardware store at the time, kind of like an Ace Hardware for you Americans. It's a home hardware for all the Canadians. And it was like golden handcuffs. So third generation family owned business. He worked 80 hours a week. We had great benefits, lots of stability. And yet I hardly ever saw him. And, we were going to have a baby, and he called me and he's like, we've got to invest in real estate. So I bring my dad up because for me, with a baby on the way, being raised by a real estate investor, I had this advantage. I said, yeah, let's do it. So he had no time, my husband, and I had time. I had lunch breaks. I had evenings. I had weekends, and I was carrying a baby. That was just not a big deal, right? So before too long, we had bought 3 properties.
Wow.
And I'm like, cool, we bought 3. And that's it. That's that. We're good to go. I'm going to have my baby. I'm going to go back to work, and life's going to move on. And the funniest thing happened after I had her. I fell madly in love, just like every parent does. And I knew that I never wanted to have to be away from her if I didn't have to.
That's a powerful moment.
I'll never forget it. I get a little weepy. I get a little, she's 20 now, or she's about to be 20. And anyway, so here I am already crying, and I think we are not even 4 minutes in. So
it's going to be a good podcast.
I hope so. So I just knew real estate in that moment. I'm in the hospital room looking at this baby, this beautiful baby, and going and saying to myself, we have to buy more real estate. So that's what we did. I was very fortunate to take advantage of the incredible maternity leave program they have up here in Canada, which is 12 months paid maternity leave. You make 50% of your income.
I don't think I knew that. That's great.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you talked about Ron LeGrand. I took a Ron LeGrand seminar, and I just really went off like a rocket. And we bought 12 more properties while my baby, while I had my daughter, Cassie, and I got pregnant again. I have 5 kids now. And so we just kept buying houses and having babies. And we felt like the smartest people in the world, because we started buying in 2002 in Alberta, and the economy and real estate market just boomed over the next 4 years. So we're all smart, and we've got all these houses, and we decided to start going into multifamily. And I bought my first apartment building through what's called an agreement for sale. It's kind of like a rent to own. You folks would call it a subject to. And anyway, got into multifamily, got introduced to condo conversion. That's where you buy apartment buildings and then you sell them off in pieces. We did that very successfully for about a year. And again, we're like, oh, we're so smart. This is amazing. And going into the fall of 2007 with 4 babies and 1 more on the way, we bought 5 more apartment buildings, just thinking we would flip them.
So these were to flip. So you were buying these last 5 to flip.
We're buying these last 5 to flip because we just flipped 6.
Gotcha.
And we were just the Midas Touch. We made anywhere between $300,000 and $700,000 per building, sold them out in a month. It was so much fun. It was an absolute blast. And we just thought the party would never end. And guess what happened? It ended.
The party ended.
So that was just 4 years of hell, I'd call it. We found really creative ways to stay alive as a company. It really should have been out of business within the first 7 months. But actually, my Ron LeGrand training came back and really helped me with a whole bunch of ways to stay alive. And so we fought a good fight for 4 years and did the best we could, I think, under the circumstances, and made a really difficult and painful decision to enter bankruptcy protection. And we had a whole bunch of properties foreclosed on us. So that's around 2011, I would say, 2012. And it was just really awful. So we decided to rebuild as best we possibly could. We moved from Alberta out here to British Columbia. We live in the Okanagan Valley in West Kelowna, and it's basically just a paradise. It's wonderful winters, but they're not too long, and hot summers, and it's just an amazing place. It actually reminds me of my hometown, Denver, Colorado, quite a bit, except it's got a big giant lake running down the middle of it. And it's small. We've only got a population of, I don't know, $500,000, between 500,000 people, in the valley. So we moved out to the Okanagan to rebuild and to kind of heal. And I started telling my story and sharing my story with people, and because we wanted to rebuild, and people identified with me, and they knew I'd gone through a pretty traumatic situation, and I had all these people approaching me and reaching out to me to solve problems, basically. And that's how we rebuilt. We got free houses from motivated sellers that were in trouble.
Sure.
and we could identify with trouble. We knew how to, we knew how to get through trouble. Our 4-year battle, we could have won it. There were multiple factors involved, not just the real estate market. There was a partnership dispute, and there were bad tenants, there was theft, and there were, and we were all playing in this dance together. I'm not playing the blame game here, but it was just, something that probably could have been saved, but wasn't. Anyway, we're rebuilding, we're doing more real estate again, and I start getting coaching clients because
weren't really trying to get them. They just were coming because they were connecting with you. And
actually, mostly people were coming, and I was like, yeah, I'll take your house. I'll help you, because a lot of these people are nearing bankruptcy or foreclosure. And I'm like, wait, you don't have to do that. Give me your house. I'll take care of it. You move on and we'll get everything sorted out. And then this one couple in Saskatchewan called me, and they said, and Saskatchewan's like 3 provinces over. It's like states. Okay. And I said, normally I would be able to take your house. And what I mean take over your house, take care of things. But I don't have any boots on the ground in your town. So why don't you just pay me, and I'll coach you. I'll teach you how to do what I do to help people, move on from these kinds of situations. So Rick and Sue, they said, yeah, let's do that. So I taught them how to find a tenant buyer so that Rick could move on and Sue could move on. And they actually helped these first-time home buyers get into their first house, little town just outside of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And it worked. And I thought, well, I could do that again and again, maybe. And people kept coming. And so I built I built a coaching program. And so, and all the stuff that we went through and everything made us street smart. And when I say us, I say me and my husband, but I'm the street smart diva. That's where the brand came from. Jeff came up with it. He's my husband. And so we just got these more coaching clients. And then all my coaching clients, I kept saying, you got to network, you got to get to know people. You got to get out there and do things. And we didn't have a networking group in our area. So we founded the Okanagan Real Estate Investment Group, which is where, we get together on a monthly basis and we learn and grow and network together. And it's a really fantastic community. I'm so lucky to be part of it. And of course, we still do tons of deals.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, you said people were connecting with you through kind of your problem solving and through the difficult times. And that's exactly what happened with me as we were talking before this, that I think that one of the things I've learned is everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. Everybody has kind of where they came from. And I've got kids, you have kids. I try to teach them, life can be beautiful, but it can be really difficult. And it's through that difficulty that you learn so much. And that's always easy to say and a lot harder to do, as we know, but I can see why people would connect. Let me just rewind the tape. I had a couple questions in there. So you guys were kind of starting off on fire. You were buying a lot of properties. How were you buying them? Were you using bank loans and kind of a more traditional means of buying? And I guess that was the segue to my next question. But let me ask that first. How were you guys acquiring all these properties up front?
So at the time in Alberta, we had this program where you could assume mortgages, which means I could give somebody a down payment and just take over their mortgage without having to qualify for financing. So that was pretty slick, pretty unique to the area. It's a lot like rent to own. It's a lot like an agreement for sale, but it's called an assumable mortgage, where the mortgage actually gets put in your name.
But you didn't have to actually qualify for that. So that's really crazy. So it's like a cash to mortgage. You give them cash and you take over, or not take over, you assume their mortgage without having to actually qualify. That's interesting. And that was done in the region, or were those specific banks doing that? Was that more of a Canadian type policy?
It's Canada wide, really. And Alberta banks and Alberta as a province is really the Wild West. They were really gung-ho. Alberta was very gung-ho about this way and strategy.
Sure.
And I also used rent to own through the Ron LeGrand trainings to buy and sell properties as well, if for whatever reason an assumable mortgage didn't work. So we've been doing, creative stuff since 2003.
Yeah. Well, I guess from the lender standpoint, as opposed to you taking over the loan and not having personal liability, in some ways it would make sense for them to let you assume it. Now you do have personal response. So even though you didn't have to qualify, is it safe to assume that you now, though, were having the monthly payments reported, and did you effectively have that debt on your debt to income ratio?
Not have the debt on you didn't have it on your credit bureau. Yes, you have it on your ratio.
Okay, so they
It's
weren't
like two
reported.
different things, right? Your ratio is
Sure,
what,
sure.
yeah. Mhm.
Interesting. So, okay, so now you guys are on fire. You're acquiring these properties, and what I see is fairly normal. You do well with singles. You want to get into some of the multis, and so then you're selling these and piecing them out and making really crazy money. $300 to $700 a pop is pretty. That's some money. That's some money. So, but now you've got this assumption, so you're kind of personally liable for a lot of this. And so when did the market, obviously in 2008 in the States, it went to the bottom. It was the worst since the Great Depression, and as everybody knows. And what happened in Canada? Was it similar to 2008 in the States?
It was very similar. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was very similar, especially for people like us. So the first people to be affected by the recession, which really we started feeling it in 2007. The first people to feel it were landowners, because gophers don't pay rent.
Yep.
And condo converters like us.
Yeah. You don't pay rent. That's right. That's right. Interesting. That would make perfect sense. And so, well, what was, and obviously 4 years of hell, let's call it what it is. It was, you don't want to go through those 4 years again, do you? No.
No. Oh man, did it ever change the way we do things? Yeah.
Would you say that some of that adversity maybe was a blessing in disguise?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, I should have talked about that. I usually talk about how it was awful, but it was also a gift, because I've been able to help so many people avoid bankruptcy and foreclosure now. And when I do deals, we buy things so well and so conservatively. And we're really since we've done so many deals, we've done over 300 transactions. It's not, doing a deal is never scary, really. You know, that was the scariest moment, sitting in that kitchen when we bought our first property for $5,000 down, assuming a mortgage. That was a very, very scary moment. That's the scariest moment for a real estate investor.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've done so many, it's just like, okay, doing the deal is not the hard part. Making sure it's not a bad deal, that's where you've got to be really careful.
Sure.
Yeah.
So regarding the bankruptcy, I think everyone in business is aware of it. I will tell you that I've learned it's a tool. I've not filed myself, but I've learned that it's a tool. Just like court and litigation can be a tool, and most people outside of the business world don't necessarily understand that. That doesn't matter, but would you go through bankruptcy again? Because as I'm listening to you, it sounds like you said that you guys had 4 years. I'm sure there were a lot of victories in those 4 years, and there were other components, moving parts. But if you had to do a bankruptcy again, would you? And I guess the second part is, what would you have done differently, if anything, during that time?
During that time, if I knew then what I know now,
Famous words, right?
Yeah, those are the famous words. We had a kind of a complicated lender that gave us some concessions so that we could stay afloat. And I should never have resecured that lender, because it would have helped everybody just keep moving forward. And I don't know if it's kind of a complicated explanation as to what I would have done differently. Now, I know, I think about that, and I never would have bought them. I never would have bought all these properties the way that I did for the price that I did, for sure.
I got you. So maybe prior to bankruptcy was maybe where you would make changes, and as opposed to the bank, because you made reference, you've helped a lot of people stave that off, which I think is great. And I think I even got a little emotion in your voice, because you're helping people avoid a tremendously tough period. And there's not a monetary value you can place on that, and that gratification inside or satisfaction, I can see it. So that was maybe more the root of the question, is that you had to go through it to learn all these things that you've learned, and now you can educate people how to not, or maybe hopefully avoid that, and maybe not go down the same path. So redoing it probably wasn't wasn't the right question to ask because of all the things you've learned from it. Am I thinking along the same lines as you?
You're exactly right, because it's like, okay, I wouldn't change anything, because if it hadn't happened, can I tell you a story?
Please.
Okay. If that hadn't happened, fast forward to, I don't know. Yeah, it's about 18 months ago. I think it was about 18 months ago. I can't, right. It's fairly recent, within the last 2 years. These folks reached out to me who were in really big trouble, or they thought that they were. And this girl, her name was Brittany, and she's like, we got this bad deal and this guy ran off with our money, and I just want to talk to you about how to go through bankruptcy. I'm like, okay, well, let's back up a bit. Why do you think you have to go through bankruptcy? And she said, because this, and this. And I, having gone through what I did, I was like, well, listen, are you working? Do you have good credit? What's your income like? She's like, oh, all of that's really great. I just need to learn how to go through bankruptcy. I'm like, no, you don't need to go through bankruptcy. What you need to do is, let's get these lenders on the phone. Let's get in front of them, and let's renegotiate something so that everybody can get paid, and you can not go down that path. Don't go down that path. So she, we were able to get her lenders all taken care of. She was able to refinance this property and turning it, it's now a cash machine. It's this Airbnb. She lives in this beautiful brand new home with an Airbnb in the basement that covers her mortgage. And, she just didn't know what she didn't know. And if I don't mean to sound braggy, but if we hadn't connected, it would have been a really unnecessary step for her to go through something like that. And so that's why what I went through is such a blessing, Yeah. Sometimes people don't know that they're not really in trouble.
They think they are. Yeah, that's so good. And I just want to hone in on that very quickly, because we like to kind of obviously send this out, but we like to take snippets that we think have high value. And I think what you just said is really, really significant. So you get, it's very normal for people to encounter a situation where it's overwhelming for them. And for whatever reason, that doesn't matter. At the time it catches them and they don't have the experience, the know-how, the knowledge, and instantaneously their thought is, this is the path I've got to take, bankruptcy, and I need to clear this, and whatever their preconceived notions are. Most don't understand the process and how unpleasant it can be. So if somebody's looking at a situation where they've got whatever their problems are, what you did is you said, look, let's face it head on. Let's communicate with the debtors, the people that are causing you to think that bankruptcy is a viable option or maybe the best option. They don't want to go through the bankruptcy either, because they're all pushed on pause, and that's a process for them too. And what you said is, let's go ahead and get in front of it. Let's talk to them directly and work through it. And that's exactly what you did. Am I understanding it correctly? And now it's turned into a beautiful situation.
Yeah, it's like, it's night and day. Everybody's been paid out, and nobody had to pay lawyer fees. Nobody had to get delivered notices from process servers. Sure. It was amazing. It was an awful situation, and it kind of made it all worth it.
Fantastic. So then the takeaways are, for someone listening that might be having some debts, might be in a situation that obviously it's typically debt driven, that feels like bankruptcy is the only solution or the best solution. Your advice would be, think twice, maybe take a look at things head on, maybe communicate with your lenders or your debtors. And if they know, and by the way, this is something that many people have used before, the threat of bankruptcy can get people, your debtors especially, not so much backpedaling, but just letting them know that it's a consideration. They don't want to go down that path. And so that's going to make them more likely to work with you, so they don't have to go down that as well. So I don't want to steal what you're saying and steal your thunder here, but somebody's in that situation. Can you just share what advice you would give them in general? Someone someone facing a lot of debts and feeling like bankruptcy, what would your advice to them be? Obviously very general, not knowing anything specific.
Find a way to come up with a plan. Go to your creditors with your plan and do your best to execute it. And there's always a way if people are willing to work together. But you've got to have a plan, and you've got to, you've got to let your creditors know, I'm doing everything that I can to get this looked after. You've got to meet me halfway, because the alternative is a really ugly situation for both of us. So let me walk you through how I'm going to take care of this and how you can help me do that. Again, there's always a way if people are willing to work with each other. And talk to somebody like Scott, because he probably could help you find a plan. Get a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion. You don't ever have to give up. When we went through bankruptcy and foreclosure, it was a very tough decision. We didn't even have to. We decided to. And it was what was best for us at the time. We were facing a $4.7 million situation. If you're talking about 30, 40, even $100,000, there's probably a way to solve it, especially if you have property, Yeah. That said, sometimes people don't, but there still can always, there can still be a way. There still is always a way.
Yeah.
At least I've found that.
Yeah, and I have too, by the way, and it's helped me avoid bankruptcy, frankly. So don't go to just your creditors with a poor me. Go to the creditors with a plan and with the cards on the table, maybe even your heart on the table as well, saying, look, I'm trying, I'm doing everything I can. If you'll meet me halfway, I think we can avoid this. You're not using bankruptcy as a threat. Again, I mentioned that a minute ago. It has been used by many as a threat to someone on the other side to work with you. That's not what you're doing. You're coming in with some sort of a plan. Even if the plan isn't what ends up happening, at least you presented something, and then you'll gauge whether or not there's interest or willingness on the other side.
Yeah, you might need plan G. You might need plan G.1A6. I mean, that's what we were doing. That's why it took us 4 years to eventually surrender, because we were on plan G.
Gotcha. So you didn't just make that up. It really was plan G.
It was crazy. It was nuts. And, well, I don't wish that on anybody.
Yeah. But what's so amazing is just seeing you, and of course I'm looking through a camera lens at you or a computer screen, but just the strength that you possess today that you, I'm sure, didn't before that. It's it's the hardest piece of advice to give to people, that the adversity, there are just blessings in it everywhere. And one of my favorite things, in fact, I say this at all of our trainings, I share my story, and as I said, everybody has their story, everybody has their come from and the challenges they've gone through. But and I always say I stole this, so I'm full disclosure, I did not create this, but it's called treasure hunting. And I say anytime that something is going on in your life that you don't like or wish was different, my approach is I always say, all right, God, I don't like it, but I know there's a lesson here. So what are you trying to teach me, number one? And number two, where's the silver lining? In every adversity, Napoleon Hill, there's a seed of equal or greater benefit or opportunity. I've always believed that. It's so hard to see that when you're going into something, but I've learned that if you can try to look for that, not only the lesson, but also the blessing in the adversity, sometimes it can help you get through it quicker or easier or less painful, but knowing that it's in there is such a takeaway. And anyway, and it sounds like you are just the epitome of that. You've gone through a tough time, and here you are on the other side with just adversity and great lessons, strength and a lot of wisdom to go with it. And now you're sharing with other people, which I think is really great. I think it's really great. Well, let me kind of switch gears. I want to have some. I told you at the outset, I'm a curious guy, so I always like to know what makes people tick. And so we wanted to dive into some of those things. And I appreciate you sharing so candidly. By the way, I know that our listeners will appreciate that as well. So some personal questions. Just curious about: do you have a morning routine that you subscribe to?
I love that you told me you were going to ask me that question. And yes, I totally do. I get up at about 6 in the morning, and actually my routine kind of starts the night before, because if you don't have health, then like physical health, spiritual health, mental health, all that kind of good stuff, then really everything else is going to fall apart. So maybe I'll back up a little bit. 4 years ago, I stopped drinking alcohol. And that has been a huge benefit to me on every level. And at the same time, what I started at that time was I started taking apple cider, like a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and a bunch of water the night before. I drink that. It helps like balance your blood sugars and stuff like that. And that's really good for you. It's good for your organs and your blood and all in your brain. And then I try to wake up every day, usually around 6 o'clock, sometimes earlier, sometimes a little bit later. And I always get up, I drink, and then I drink lemon water. So I have a piece of lemon in water, and I put that in my body. I drink it really fast. Right when I get up. And then I take the next 15 minutes and I meditate. And I listen to Abraham Hicks, 15-minute meditation. They have a whole bunch of, they have like a financial one, a physical one, relationships, 15-minute meditation, and you just focus on your breathing, and there's words and music, and it's really just lovely. And it has two benefits. It's good for my spirit, and also it helps the lemon and the water soak in.
Is that
to
right?
My body, And then I always sit and I look at our beauty. I overlook a really like breathtaking valley, the Okanagan Valley. And I sit and I have a cup of coffee, and nothing else happens in my world until those things are done. So meditation and some good nutrition, and I exercise, like probably 3-4 times a week. Not usually first thing in the morning, but I make sure and get that in. But my morning routine is very sacred to me.
Very good.
I really love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said it a minute ago. Without it, the rest of the day is obviously affected. Nothing can get in the way of that. That is awesome. I've been. It's one of my. I'm not going to call it a New Year's resolution because most of those don't stick. But I've been the past 30 days have had this yearning for getting into meditation. So going into the new year, that's one of my big goals. And affects. I study a lot. I try to read a lot, and I love to hear biographies. And I know Russell Simmons, who's has been a very successful entrepreneur in the States over the years. He meditates twice a day. And I thought, well, how could anybody? He's so busy. I mean, he meditates in the afternoon. He's got all these appointments. And of course, it's the exact opposite for him. Nothing would get in the way of that. He could never handle the things that he does without having that meditation, without himself getting back to kind of his center and connecting and whatever the phrases and buzzwords are. And so I think that's great. How long have you been meditating for? How long have you been practicing that?
Consistently for 4 years.
Very good. Very good.
Daily. We're talking daily. Yeah.
Love it.
Ever since, if you have a hangover or you've had a couple of glasses of wine, it's hard to do that morning stuff for me.
Sure.
Maybe not for everybody, but for me, it certainly was. So I just revamped that whole side of my life from having a glass of wine or two, or
Sure.
Sometimes
Yep.
4.
I've been known to do that every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do, and I'm not here to judge. It was just something that totally turned my life around, and I really needed that at the time. So I'd say 4 good years, and I've been practicing yoga for 20 years.
Wow, which has some elements of meditation in it, even maybe indirect, right?
It's very much considered like moving meditation.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I'm inspired. You've inspired me to get into my meditating sooner. So I'm really excited about it. I swear, we all juggle a lot. I think I read something earlier today, the subject line was no goals, ? No problems. Well, if you want goals, you're going to have problems, right? You want to achieve something in this world, you're going to have things come against you and resistance, and you're going to have things to deal with. So you either accept that and suck it up and go for it, or you stay on the sidelines. Well, that's an easy decision. So, but having something like meditation and exercise and caring about your body and drinking the apple cider vinegar, which I bet isn't a big thing of water, so you don't have to taste it, right? Is that why you put in water?
Exactly. You still taste it, and you'll hate it at first, probably. After 30 or 45 days, though, your body will crave it.
Interesting.
Because it's so good for you.
Yeah, I might have to try that. Plug my nose when I do it, right? So
there you go.
Very good. Well, that's actually I'm really inspired to get out there and get. And I think in order to really take on big goals and accomplish big things, you've got to it starts up here, not only with visualizing and seeing it first. As we all know, you create your life in your mind first, but in order to handle that, I think that it helps you stay calm and centered. And anyway, I'm convincing myself even more how important it's going to be. So, well, let me ask you a couple more quick questions. Some of these are personal, but these are all questions that I'm always curious to ask. Is there one book that you've read in your life that has been impacting? And if so, would you recommend it? And what is it?
Yeah, you asked me about that, and I've got these books over here. This isn't the most impact. Well, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, of course.
Okay.
That's everybody. But something that everybody can. I'm going to grab it real quick. This book, Exactly What to Say. So it's by Phil M. Jones. And it just gives you all these little great sales strategies. You can read 20 pages a day, and you'll just have a fresh sales mind. And really, that's what I am at the end of the day, by the way, is a salesperson. 100%. Mm-hmm. And if anyone is going to be an entrepreneur, I find it as it's like the cup of apple cider vinegar, and I absolutely love it. And then, of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Rich Woman, by Kim Kiyosaki. I think the opening line in it or something like that is talking about how some famous football player's wife, they're divorced and now she needs to find a new husband or something. And a man is not a plan. Okay, ladies, let's just all learn how to take care of ourselves, please, in every way. That's really yeah. So, I don't even know where I was going with that, but this, you asked me and I was like, oh, I want to talk about this book because it's been really awesome to me. It's fantastic. I really like it. Yeah.
Well, and I too, I tell people often, at the end of the day, I'm a salesman. That's where my heart is. And I think you have to be to a large degree. I don't ever want people to not, if they have dreams and they want to be entrepreneurial in any way, and they don't feel like they have a sales personality or sales angle to them. I wouldn't want to kind of shoot their dreams down, but I think there are certain traits that make entrepreneurs successful, and having that sales in your background or in your personality is a part of it. Well, I will say the Kim Kiyosaki thing is really good. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I tell her every day, boys are dogs with fleas. Don't forget, all boys are bad. And no, of course, I don't say those things, but man is not a plan. That's really good. And I do say I was a teenage boy one time, and yeah. So anyway, and I also learned that if you object to the boyfriend, then that's where they're going, right? So I've learned you keep your mouth shut even if you don't like them. So wait, is this part of the podcast? No.
Yes, because most of the people, I think, not all of them, but most of them will have kids, and it all plays into everything, Yeah. Like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my daughter, like literally.
Right.
I would have just kept on going down that road, and how I have 5 of the most amazing humans on the planet, right. And it all mixes into everything.
There's a plan. Sure. There's a plan. Well, I got to tell you, this has been, first of all, I want to thank you again, not only for just being here and giving me some of your time, but for being so honest and open and candid. Obviously, we hope that people can listen and take from this and glean some nuggets and hopefully inspire them, with some of your hardships and your stories and the things you've been through. So really a big thank you. And I feel so privileged to get to do this. It's so fun to just get to hear people's stories and life lessons and things that kind of make them tick. So thank you for making this a lot of fun for me. I can almost guarantee you that there's some people out here listening that would love to connect with you, that they connect with your personality and just the energy that you put out there. If people wanted to work with you, if they have questions for you, if they'd like to be one of your coaching students, would like to mentor under you, how do they get a hold of you?
Okay, so there are a couple of ways. One way is they can go to my website at streetsmartdiva.com. And it just has some testimonials of previous and existing coaching clients and stories and stuff. You can also go to streetsmartdiva.com/book. And that just means you can schedule a meeting with me.
Fantastic.
One-on-one. And then probably the best way to just stay in touch with me, because you'll always have the opportunity to book with me if you like to, because of that link, is to go to streetsmartdiva.com/my free tools. and you'll get all of my 11 free real estate investment tools that I use all the time and my coaching clients use all the time. You're also going to get access to a little webinar on how to find deals, and it's some more information on, just some success stories and lessons, and hopefully content that is helpful. Those are really the best ways to get in touch with me. I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Facebook, and I'm not a hugely social media person, but at the same time, I am out there. And then you can find me through Scott. Sounds
Very
like
good.
now, or Andrew, who's behind.
That's right. He's really the brains. I'm just the pretty face, as we say, and of course everybody laughs because they look at my face. They know I'm kidding. So
but it's a team. It's a team.
That's right. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
well, again, so now they know how to find you. StreetSmartDiva.com, and then there's obviously options there. So, well, Julie, I got to tell you, I wish you many, many years of continued success, and congrats on all your success and your beautiful family, and just the fact that you're sharing your hard times. I will conclude by saying this. It does take a certain degree of, and I don't know what it is. It's kind of like that when they say you've got it. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, you got it. There's something that it takes to be able to go out and share your story when you've gone through some hard times, really with the spirit of trying to help others. And so for that, I want to say again, thank you and continued success. And I hope our paths get to cross again soon.
God, I appreciate it. I have a feeling that they will. Thank you
Wonderful.
so much.
All right. We'll talk very soon, Julie. Thank you, guys. This is Scott Ulmer with the REI Money Matrix podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and stay tuned for another one very soon. Thank you. I see you've been watching our videos, and I want to give you a big thank you. If you've ever wanted to get into real estate investing, there's never been a better time than now. Click the link below for more information on how you can work with myself and my team, or visit pinkaffiliates.com. That's pinkaffiliates.com. We have a variety of options for you to get started at whatever level you are interested in. Click the link below, visit pinkaffiliates.com, and see what Pink can do for you.